Good evening. It is June 13th, and I think I figured out what the problem was. I bought a new camera, and I think my old camera was just on the fritz, and there must have been a button to turn on black and white, and I couldn't get it off. So we are now back in color. So hopefully it'll stay this way. Tonight we're going to read from 1 Kings 11:1 through 12:19, Acts 9:1 through 25, Psalms 131, 1 through 3, and Proverbs 17:4 and 5. We are going to do the Lord's Prayer. If you will, join in with me. We like to do it every night. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. 1 Kings 11:1 through 12:19. Oops. Let's see. Let me scoot this back over a little bit. There we go. Okay. King Solomon was obsessed with women. Well, Pharaoh's daughter was only the first of the many foreign women he loved. Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite. He took them from the surrounding pagan nations of which God had clearly warned Israel, you must not marry them. They'll seduce you into infatuations with their gods. Solomon fell in love with them anyway, refusing to give them up. He had 700 royal wives and 300 concubines. Good Lord. 1,000 women in all, and they did seduce him away from God. And as Solomon grew older, his wives beguiled him with their alien gods, and he became unfaithful. He didn't stay true to his God as his father David had done. Solomon took up with Ashtaroth, the whore goddess of Sidonians, and Molech, the horrible god of the Ammonites. Solomon openly defiled God. He did not follow in his father's David's footsteps. He went on to build a sacred shrine to Chemosh, the horrible god of Moab, and to Molech, the horrible god of the Ammonites. On a hill just east of Jerusalem, he built similar shrines for all his foreign wives, who then polluted the countryside with the smoke and stench of their sacrifices. God was furious with Solomon for abandoning the God of Israel, the God who had twice appeared to him and had so clearly commanded him not to fool around with other gods. Solomon faithlessly disobeyed God's orders. God said to Solomon, since this is the way it is with you, that you have no intention of keeping faith with me and doing what I have commanded, I'm going to rip the kingdom from you and hand it over to someone else. But out of respect for you, of your father David, I won't do it in your lifetime. It's your sons who will pay. I'll rip it right out from their grasp. Even then, I won't take it all. I'll leave him one tribe in honor of my servant David and out of respect for my chosen city, Jerusalem. God incited Hadad, a descendant, well, not sure what that was. God incited Hadad, a descendant of the king of Edom, into hostile actions against Solomon. Years later, when David devastated Edom, Joab, commander of the army on his way to bury the dead, massacred all the men of Edom. Joab and his army stayed there for 6 months, making sure they had killed every man in Edom. Hadad, just a boy at the time, had escaped with some of the Edomites who had worked for his father. Their escape route took them through Midian and Paran. They picked up some men in Paran and went on to Egypt and to the Pharaoh king of Egypt, who gave Hadad a house, food, and even land. Pharaoh liked him so well that he gave him the sister of his wife, Queen Tipenes. In marriage, she bore Hadad a son named Gunabath, who was raised like one of the royal family. Gunabath grew up in a palace with the Pharaoh's children. While living in Egypt, Hadad heard that both David and Joab, commander of the army, were dead. He approached Pharaoh and said, send me off with your blessing. I want to return to my country. But why, said Pharaoh. Why would you want to leave here? Hasn't everything been to your liking? Everything is just fine, said Hadad, but I want to go home and give a good send-off. Give me a good send-off. Then God incited another adversary against Solomon, Rezon, son of Eladah, who had deserted from his master, Hadadzer, king of Zoab. After David's slaughter of Armenians, Rezon collected a band of the outlaws and became their leader. They later settled in Damascus, where Rezon eventually took over as king. Like Hadad, Rezon was in the throne in Israel's side all of Solomon's life. He was the king over Aram as he hated Israel. And then, last straw, Jeroboam, son of Nebat, rebelled against the king. He was an Ephraimite from Zerudah. His mother, a widow named Zeruiah, he served in Solomon's administration. This is why he rebelled. Solomon had built the outer defense system, the Milo, and had restored the fortifications that were in despair from the time of his father David. Jeroboam stood out during the construction as strong and able. When Solomon observed what a good worker he was, he put the young man in charge of the entire workforce of the tribe of Joseph. One day, Jeroboam was walking down the road out of Jerusalem. Ahijah, Ahijah, the prophet of Shiloh, wearing a brand new cloak, met him. The two of them were alone on the remote stretch of road. Elisha took off the new cloak that he was wearing and ripped it into 12 pieces. Then he said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 of these pieces for yourself. This is by order of the God of Israel. See what I'm doing? I'm ripping the kingdom out of Solomon's hand and giving you 10 of the tribes in honor of my servant David and out of respect for Jerusalem. The city I especially chose, he will get one tribe. Here's the reason. He faithlessly abandoned me and went off worshiping Ashtaroth, goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, god of the Moabites, and Molech, god of the Ammonites. He, he hasn't lived the way I have shown him, hasn't done what I have wanted, and hasn't followed directions or obeyed orders as his father David did. Still, I won't take the whole kingdom away from him. I'll stick with him through his lifetime because of my servant David, whom I chose and who I did follow my directions and obey my orders. But after that, I'll remove the kingdom from his son's control and give you 10 tribes. I'll leave one tribe to his son and to maintain a witness to my servant David in Jerusalem, the city I choose as a memorial to my name. But I have taken you in hand, rule to your heart's content. You are to be the king of Israel. If you listen to what I tell you and live the way I show you and do what pleases me, following directions and obeying orders as my servant David did, I'll stick with you no matter what. I'll build you a kingdom as solid as the one I built for David. Israel will be yours. I'm bringing pain and trouble on David's descendants, but the trials won't last forever." Hopefully the microphone works on this camera. Solomon ordered the assassination of Jeroboam, but he got away to Egypt and found asylum there with the king Shishak. He remained in exile until Solomon died. The rest of Solomon's life and rule, his work and wisdom, you can read for yourself in the Chronicles of Solomon. Solomon ruled in Jerusalem over all of Israel for 40 years. He died and was buried in the city of David, his father. His son Rehoboam was the next king. Rehoboam traveled to Shechem, where all Israel had gathered to inaugurate him as the king. Jeroboam had been in Egypt, where he had been taken asylum from King Solomon. When he got the report of Solomon's death, he had come back. Rehoboam assembled Jeroboam and all of the people. They said to Rehoboam, "Your father made life hard for us, worked our fingers to the bone, give us a break, lighten up on us, and we'll willingly serve you. Give me 3 days to think it over and then come back," Rehoboam said. King Rehoboam talked it over with the elders who had advised his father when he was alive. "What's your counsel? How do you suggest that I answer the people?" They said. "If you will be a servant to this people, be considerate of their needs and respond to their compassion, work things out with them, they'll end up doing anything for you." But he rejected the counsel of the elders and asked the young men he'd grown up with, who were now currying his favor, "What do you think? What should I say to these people who are saying, 'Give us a break from our father's harsh ways. Listen, lighten up on us'?" The young Turks he'd grown up with said, "These people who complain your father was too hard on us, lighten up. Well, tell them this: my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. If you think life under my father was hard, you haven't seen the half of it. My father trashed you with whips. I'll beat you bloody with chains." 3 days later, Jeroboam and the people showed up, just as Rehoboam had directed when he said. Give me 3 days to think it over, then come back. The king's answer was harsh and rude. He spurned the counsel of the elders and went with the advice of the younger set. If you think life under my father was hard, you haven't seen the half of it. My father trashed you with whips. I'll beat you with bloody with chains. Rehoboam turned a deaf ear to the people. God was behind all this, confirming the message that he had given to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, through Elisha, Sheol of Sheol. When all Israel realized that the king hadn't listened to a word they said, they stood up to him and said, "Get lost, David. We've had it with you, son of Jesse. Let's get out of here, Israel, and fast. From now on, David, mind your business." And with that they left. But Rehoboam continued to rule, who lived in the towns of Judah. When King Rehoboam next sent out Adoram, head of the workforce, to Israelites, the Israelites ganged up on him, pelted him with stones, and killed him. King Rehoboam jumped in his chariot and fled to Jerusalem as fast as he could. Israel had been in rebellion against the Davidic regime ever since. That sucks. 1 Kings 11:1 through 12:19, the breakdown, the cost of divided heart. King Solomon was the wisest who ever lived, allowed his love for foreign women to pull his heart away from God. Instead of fully obeying the Lord, he compromised. And compromise eventually led to idolatry. Because of Solomon's disobedience, God declared the kingdom would be divided after his death. His son Rehoboam then had an opportunity to unite the people who chose pride over wisdom. Ignoring wise counsel, he increased the burdens on the people, causing 10 tribes to rebel from a separate kingdom under Jeroboam. The lesson says that wisdom without obedience is dangerous. A divided heart leads to divided life. Pride destroys what humility could preserve. The key thought says stay faithful in the small comparisons, because today's compromise can become tomorrow's downfall. Acts 9:1 through 25. All this time, Saul was breathing down the necks of the master's disciples, out for the kill. He went to the chief priest and got arrest warrants to take to the meeting places in Damascus, so that if he found anyone there belonging to the way, whether men or women, he could arrest them and bring them to Jerusalem. He set off. When he got to the outskirts of Damascus, he was suddenly dazed by a blinding flash of light. He fell to the ground and he heard a voice, "Saul, Saul, why are you out to get me?" He said, "Who are you, Master?" "I am Jesus, the one you're hunting down. I want you to get up and enter the city. In the city, you'll be told what to do next." His companions stood there dumbstruck. They could hear the sound but couldn't see anyone. While Saul picked himself up off the ground, found himself stone blind. They had to take him by hand and lead him into Damascus. He continued blind for 3 days. He ate nothing and drank nothing. There was a disciple in Damascus by the name of Ananias. The master spoke to him in a vision. "Ananias." "Yes, master," he answered. "Get up and go over to the straight avenue. Ask at the house of Judas for a man named Tarsus. His name is Saul. He's there praying. He had just had a dream in which he saw a man named Ananias enter the house and lay hands on him so he could see again." Ananias protested, "Master, you can't be serious. Everybody's talking about this man and the terrible things he's been doing, his reign of terror against our people in Jerusalem. And now he's shown up here with papers from the chief priest to give his license to do the same to us." But Master said, "Don't argue, go. I have picked him as my personal representative to non-Jews and kings and Jews. And now I'm about to show him what he's in for, the hard suffering that goes with this job." So Ananias went and found the house, placed his hands on the blind Saul, and said, "Brother Saul, the master sent me. The same Jesus you saw on your way here, he sent me so you could see again and be filled with the Holy Spirit." No sooner were the words out of his mouth than someone like scales fell off Saul's eyes. He could see again. He got to his feet, was baptized, and sat down with them to a hearty meal. Saul spent a few days getting acquainted with the Damascus disciples, but then went right to work, wasting no time preaching in the meeting places that this Jesus was the Son of God. They were caught off guard by this, and not at all sure they could trust him. They kept saying, "Isn't this the man who wreaked havoc in Jerusalem among the believers? And didn't he come here to do the same, arrest us and drag us off to jail in Jerusalem for sentencing by high priests?" But their suspicions didn't slow Saul down even for a minute. His momentum was up now, and he plowed straight into the opposition, disarming the Damascus Jews and trying to show them that Jesus was the Messiah. After this had gone on quite a long time, some Jews conspired to kill him, but Saul got wind of it. They were watching the city gates around the clock so they could kill him. Then one night, the disciples engineered his escape by lowering him over the wall in a basket. Acts 9 1 through 25. Saul's radical conversation. Saul was fiercely prosecuting Christians when Jesus met him on the road to Damascus. A bright light blinded him, and Jesus asked, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? This encounter completely transformed Saul's life. The man who once hunted Christians became one of Christians' greatest missionaries and writers. After receiving his sight through Ananias, Saul immediately began preaching that Jesus is the Son of God. The lesson here is no one is beyond God's reach. God can transform the greatest enemy into his greatest servant. The key thought says, your past does not determine your future when Jesus intervenes. Psalms 131, 1 through 3. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. Haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart like a baby content in my mother's arms. My soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait for hope. Hope now, hope always. Breakdown of Psalms 131 through 1 through 3 says David speaks of a heart that is not proud or arrogant. Instead of trying to understand everything or correct everything, he chooses to rest in God like a weaned child resting peacefully with his mother. This is one of the Bible's clearest pictures of spiritual maturity, not striving, not worrying, but trusting. The lesson says peace comes when you stop trying to be God and start trusting God. Ouch. The key thought, faith isn't knowing everything. Faith is trusting the one who does. Proverbs 17, 4 and 5. Evil people relish malicious conversation. The ears of liars itch for dirty gossip. Whoever mocks poor people insults their creator. Gloating over misfortune is a punishable crime. Breakdown of Proverbs 17, 4 and 5. When your ears reveal what your ears reveal about your heart. Verse 4 teaches that evil people enjoy listening to evil talk, while liars are attracted to destructive speech. What we continually listen to shapes who we become. Verse 5 warns against mocking the poor or rejoicing when others suffer. God takes those attitudes personally because every person bears his image. Lesson says, guard both your tongue and your ears. What entertains you often reveals what is growing inside you. That stings. A godly person refuses to feed on gossip, mockery, or misfortune of others. Guys, if no one told you today, I love you and I appreciate you. I'm glad we got this back in color. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a better than good night, and we will see you tomorrow. It will be June 14th. Let me see if I can get my mouse to work here. There we go. Have a better than good night. We'll see you tomorrow.